Alright, so hello everyone. Welcome to Tech Live. I'm Adam. I'm here with my friend Jay here over the telephone. Today we're going to be talking about mostly how to improve your home Wi-Fi. It's nowadays everyone uses it, and it can be really frustrating when it doesn't work right or you have issues. But first, before we get into that, we're going to hit some tech news. So, some there have been some rumors and a leaked photo of the iPhone 7, Apple's next piece of shit that everyone will buy. So the iPhone 7 is, I guess some people would say it's a bit uglier than earlier versions of the iPhone. They made the antennas bigger, thank God. But now there are visible antenna lines, as you can see here in the picture on the phone. I also improved the camera, but it sticks out farther and is even larger than it was before. The iPhone 7 is rumored to be 4.7 inches, iPhone 7 Plus at 5.5 inches. They're also saying that Apple's going to remove the headphone jack. Yep, good old Apple, getting rid of the stuff we use all the time. Hey, what? I can't hear you.
What about poor people who can't afford Bluetooth?
Well, they probably can't afford an iPhone either. They're also saying the mechanical home button, the button that pushes, is just going to be replaced with a capacitive button. And all the home button being removed and replaced with just like a touch button, and the headphone jack being removed. People are thinking that Apple's trying to make the iPhone 7 either waterproof or water resistant. Which I don't know why Apple would do that. They basically make their iPhone shit so you break them and buy a new one. I think the real reason they're getting rid of the headphone jack is just so you have to buy their special headphones that connect through the Lightning port or Bluetooth ones, which are more expensive.
Pretty smart though. No way to make money.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, there you sound louder. What'd you do there?
I switched to my Bluetooth.
Okay, good. That you're a little too loud. I'll turn the volume down from here. But that's great. I couldn't really hear what you were saying. Now it's better. All right.
Yeah.
So instead of regular headphones, you're gonna have to. Well, again, if they do remove the jack, as it's rumored, you're gonna either get headphones that connect to the Lightning jack, so the charger port, or Bluetooth headphones. And there's supposed to be an extra speaker where the headphone jack's going to be removed. And Apple's is rumored to remove the 16 gigabyte from the lineup. The iPhone 7 is going to start at 32 gigabyte. Also much needed with today's ever expanding storage that people need on phones. 32 gigabyte really isn't all that much. All right, so you ever heard of the pirate file sharing website Mega Upload? Okay,
I think so.
that's coming back. Kim.com, who founded the website, that's not his real name. I forget his last name, as he changed his last name. Kim.com, who is a German tech entrepreneur, he plans to relaunch the file sharing website. It's frequently used to share pirated media. .com claims that the original uploader should be held accountable for the pirated content, not him. However, the U.S. government believes that .com left the pirated content on his site knowingly. Mega Upload was taken down by the U.S. government in 2012, and .com was arrested along with two accomplices in New Zealand, where he was living at the time at the request of the FBI. His house was raided, and his computers were seized. In 2013, New Zealand granted .com access to all evidence seized by police in the raid of his house. He plans to relaunch Mega Upload in January 2017, claiming that most Mega Upload users would get their accounts reinstated. .com also hinted that Mega Upload will begin using the popular cryptocurrency Bitcoin. So
Bitcoin.
yeah, he's pretty. He's like, hey, you take down my piracy file sharing website, I'll put it back up and start using Bitcoin this time.
Bitcoins are annoying. They're
Yeah,
expensive and they're cheap. How much are Bitcoins right now? I'm gonna Google it.
they fluctuate so much.
Yeah, I know. Like in the early 2012, not 2012, but I don't know, like 2010, they were down to 10 cents.
Hmm.
Bitcoin price.
Yeah, they're gonna fail eventually. I mean, all they're used for is illegal stuff, anyways.
Yeah, pretty much. Right now they're 670.87 US dollars.
Damn. Yeah, if you would have invested that when they started out and then just sold it all now, I would probably sell it now because
Yeah.
I don't know, it might go up
I wouldn't,
further.
because I mean they're going up. They're still going up.
Yeah, but they're doomed to fail at some point.
Good point.
I don't know. I might hang on to it a little longer, but if they even start to go down, I would. I don't know if Bitcoin would start to go down gradually or they just tank. I don't know. All right, let's move on. Mobile ransomware, which you got on your phone, Jay.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
on some
That.
sketchy website. Remember that? Where it
Yeah.
said
I
you
remember
had
that.
the FBI porn warning said pay $300 or whatever.
Maybe. I may or may not have had that happen to my phone.
Well, here's something interesting too. This happened a few years back. Some guy got the porno virus on his computer where it said like you have illegal porn or whatever, you have child porn, and you
Yeah.
need to pay the money. And this guy actually was like he was a pedophile. You know, he actually had child porn on his computer, and he turned himself into the police.
Oh God. Yeah.
All right, that's a true story too. Look it up.
Okay, so I'm looking at Bitcoin prices right now, and on November 25th, 2013, it the Bitcoin price went up to $979.
Oh wow.
It's almost $1,000. And down at January 26th, 2010, it's down to 6 cents.
Jeez.
And it gradually goes up since until about 2012 when it spikes up to $100, stays around there, and then spikes up to 100, like 1,000, and then slowly spikes up and down, down to about 200 around January 2015, and now it's starting to go up again.
Give me a second. I'm gonna get Bitcoin up here on Google just to show my viewers.
Okay, I'm on CoinDesk.com/price.
So there you can see what he was saying there. How it spiked here in 2013, and right now it's about $659. So let's get back to the presentation here. So mobile ransomware is becoming more common. A Kaspersky lab report released last week shows that the number of mobile ransomware victims has increased fourfold compared to a year ago. It identifies four major factors contributing to this growth. People are willing to pay the ransoms. Stupid people, because you're probably not going to get your data back anyways.
No, you're not.
The value of the information stored on digital devices is so high now that paying a ransom to recover it is more cost effective than not paying the ransom. What the hell do you have on your phone that's so valuable? But oh no, I'm gonna lose my porn collection.
Yeah, haven't you ever heard of free porn?
All right.
I mean, not that I know of that.
Law enforcement is having difficulty responding to the problem. Yeah, when these fuck faces are in like Russia and stuff, you can't really do much about it here in the U.S. And new payment tools like Bitcoin make it easier for cyber criminals to collect ransoms. All right. Most mobile ransomware programs do not actually encrypt your files on the phone. In most cases, they're just locking you out of your phone. Paying a ransom can be very risky, as many times you won't get your data back, but the cyber criminals will get your money.
Yeah.
Avoid ransomware by only downloading apps from the Google Play Store. Keeping Android and all apps up to date, as many updates include security patches. Using common sense when granting permission to applications. For example, a flashlight app shouldn't need access to your location, contacts, call history, or messages. And this was for you, Jay. Not
Yeah.
going to sketchy porno or pirated movie websites.
I do not say that I did or did not do that.
Do not go to sketchy porno or pirated movie websites. You will probably get a virus.
Yeah, you can take my advice. Don't do it. Don't click random things that say okay or download. Not that happened to me.
All right.
Ever.
All right. So, Japan Airlines is now using Microsoft's holographic virtual reality, the HoloLens, for training. The airline announced at a Microsoft conference that is using HoloLens for 2 training programs, one providing supplemental training for engine mechanics and another for flight crew trainees who want to be promoted to co-pilots. The airlines hopes that using the HoloLens, which overlays 3D holographic content on the physical world, they hope that it will help make training faster and more comprehensive. Aircraft mechanics can tinker around with virtual engines and parts just as if they were working on the actual engine or cockpit.
Okay. So it makes it easier than fake planes.
I guess it just speeds up the process instead of having to show them videos and give demonstrations. They can use these holographic glasses.
So it's like those tutorial videos that you always skip.
Yeah. Instead of that, they use these things. Or they're starting to use both, I guess.
Pretty nice.
All right. Let's move on here. Okay, I got another slide of this. The senior director of planning, Koji Mizu, I don't know, I probably butchered that name, said, "We believe that HoloLens can contribute to the safety of our business, which is the most important criteria for airlines." Duh. Japan Airlines is following the footsteps of NASA, who is also using Microsoft's HoloLens. Alright, so I don't know if you've been following this too much, Jay, but the Clinton email scandal. Yeah, you heard
I've heard of it, but I haven't really been following it.
Well, I'll try to. So Hillary Clinton basically had a home server where she was, using. She had a home server with its own email account. She was putting like work email, government email through it, right? That would be fine if it wasn't top secret stuff, but apparently she had top secret stuff on this unsecure home server.
Yeah.
And in the FBI director said that this home server was more unsecure, less secure than Gmail.
Okay.
So that's pretty pathetic. But anyways, so this is stuff putting our information in danger. She was even using like accessing this server from her phone, this unsecure server from her phone while she was in places like Russia, in the Middle East, where you're probably gonna get hacked.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at the Microsoft Holo thing, and
All right.
It kind of reminds me of a VR headset.
Yeah, that's what it is, really.
Yeah, so it's just that, but I don't know.
All right, so back to Hillary Clinton's thing.
Yeah.
So basically, she did this. She possibly put our information at risk, and the FBI director said even though she was extremely careless, he said no charges, which I think is, ridiculous. There were other cases of people who put, American information at risk unintentionally, just like Hillary, that were charged and did go to jail. I forget offhand, but I did read about that. There were some people who did basically the same things she did. But because she's, so powerful, she gets off.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, she's going for president. Like, they're not really going to do anything, and nothing's going to come up for that to happen.
right. And what's kind of pathetic too, the FBI director said she had no intent on putting our information in harm. Obviously she had no intent. You're not like it's not like she was trying to betray the U.S. You shouldn't charge her for treason. But she put our say I get drunk, okay? I drive a vehicle and I crash into someone and kill them, okay? I'm gonna get charged probably with homicide by vehicle or manslaughter or something. Did I intend to kill that person? No. And I would have a DUI on top of that. But because I was driving under the influence and happened to crash into someone and kill them, I didn't intend to kill them. I didn't mean to kill them, but I still get charged. Someone's dead and the blood's on my hands or my car. Yeah, I think that's ridiculous.
You think it's ridiculous that she wasn't charged?
Yeah, that they at least didn't charge her with anything. Like they should at least, I don't know, charge her with something. Because yeah, she didn't intend to put our information at risk, but she still did it. And she was, well, I mean, come on, you got to be pretty stupid to do something like that. And then what really sucked, she lied about it. She could, just like Bill Clinton did about Monica. She could have just said, hey, I made when people first found out about it. She could have just said, hey, I made a mistake here. I shouldn't have done this. I didn't realize, that I was putting this information at risk. Which I don't think she is very tech savvy. But said, hey, I didn't really realize what I was doing. But no, of course she lies about it. She said, no, I didn't have a server. And then she says, like, oh, yeah, I had a server, but I didn't have any top secret stuff on it. And now it comes out she had top secret stuff on it. And she's like, oh, well, I didn't realize it was unsecure. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, you just keep lying. If you would have just come out and been honest when it first hit the fan, when the shit first hit the fan, instead of lying and trying to cover it up like Bill did with Monica, which didn't work, things wouldn't be as nasty as they are now. All right, let's move on.
Okay, moving on.
So now this is the main topic today, and we're talking about Wi-Fi. There's 4 sections of this. How to improve your home Wi-Fi. A Wi-Fi router buyer's guide. So this is going to talk. The buyer's guide is going to talk about some of the buzzwords you see on the packaging. Like I got a Wi-Fi card. Let me just read some of the buzzwords off from you. And a lot of times they're just for marketing crap. Like they don't. Some of the words, some of the stuff they say doesn't really mean all that much.
You're cutting out.
Sorry, I got a little further away. I was getting the package out. Alright, so this is Wi-Fi router. I guess there isn't too much bad buzzwords on this. But a lot of times when I see ones that say like long range and that kind of nonsense, that kind of makes me skeptical. Because I mean the range is going to vary depending on what kind of walls you have and what devices is on at the other end.
Yeah, so you can't really say if it is or isn't long range. It depends on the device, not really the router.
Right. Because, I mean, if you have a Wi-Fi is two ways. So if the device can see the router, like if the router is strong enough, the signal's strong enough that the device can see the router, but the router can't see the device, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's, well, a lot of times it's not the router, it's the device on the other end that can't send a signal back. Because a little mobile phone's not going to be able to put out a very powerful signal. All right.
Really.
So this is the router I just bought here. It's a Netis AC 1200 wireless dual band gigabit router. So it says 802.11 AC standard of next generation Wi-Fi technology. It's not next generation, it's current generation.
Yeah, they always say it's next generation, but clearly it's not if it's in our generation.
Right. It's 802.11 AC, was released in 2014. It is the current standard. It's the new standard of Wi-Fi. 4 high gain antennas for powerful wireless coverage. Yeah, at least they don't like make claims about the range, but I do believe that this router does have pretty good range. Up to 6 additional wireless networks for visitors. Yeah, it has that. So there aren't too many buzzwords on this. It's not too awful.
Okay, so.
But a lot of times they'll say like long range or high performance, stuff like that. They can't really be verified.
Yeah, it depends on the device connected to it, not the actual router.
Like I have another thing, a Netgear card I got a while back. It has these things saying like what kind of applications it can handle, okay? The card I used to have before I got something actually decent, I had the N300, which was 300 megabit per second card, and it said I could do email, chat, music, and video, and online gaming with it. Now, what about HD streaming and multiple HD streaming? It says I couldn't do that. Guess what? I streamed HD video all the time with that old card. It worked fine. So they tell you that, oh, hey, if you want to do HD streaming, you need to get the N600. Well, the N300 can do HD streaming fine. So that's just the kind of stuff they make you think you need something better than you actually do.
Okay, so yeah, I get what you're saying now. Like, it's not actually better, but it says it's better.
Yeah. All right, let's move on now. So how to improve your home Wi-Fi. This is the first tip. This is the most obvious one, and that is to relocate the Wi-Fi router or access point. So try to place it near the center of your home or the center of where it will be used. For example, man, you're really loud. Try moving the mic away from your face a little.
Okay, hold on. Like that?
Yeah, I might turn my volume down a little too. You're just kind of, like, it's kind of rattly. Alright. For example, if you want to be able to connect from your back deck, move the router towards the back of your home. So instead of having it right smack in the center, you might want to have it, in the center towards the back of your home so you can get a signal out back.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem I had with. My router was in the middle of my house. I wanted to use it outside, but there was a thick wall, so I just moved it 2 feet, and there you go.
Okay, yeah. Even a few feet will make a difference. Now, 2 feet, I find that a little hard to believe, but.
Well, no, the actual difference wasn't the distance; it was the thick wall between it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
All right. So, also check for sources of interference. This is a big one that a lot of people don't seem to realize. Microwaves, cordless phones, baby monitors, and AV senders usually share the 2.4 gigahertz band with Wi-Fi. So you have all those devices using the same radio band. And that goes back a ways because microwaves is the reason why they use that. Microwaves put out signals to heat your food, very powerful signals in the
Yeah.
2.4 gigahertz band. So when the FCC was selling off frequency bands to people, and this was when microwave ovens were used. This was way before people actually started using the 2.4 gigahertz band for radio transmission. For
Wait, okay. Are you saying that like my microwave can put out like a radio station?
Not really. It just puts out a ton of radiation at that radio frequency because that happens. I guess it's a microwave frequency. It's not a radio frequency. Radio frequencies go up to I forget what. I think 300 megahertz. No, it might be a gigahertz.
I don't know, but the wave between is pretty big.
It's the well, anyways, it puts out radiation at the same wavelength that your Wi-Fi router uses, but it's much more powerful, and it's like a continuous radiation to heat your food. It heats up the water in your food. All right, so and the reason why Wi-Fi uses what's going on?
My mic fell over.
The reason why Wi-Fi and cordless phones, all these devices use the 2.4 gigahertz band is because that's what microwaves use, and it's useless for anything else. So the FCC couldn't sell it to anyone. So hey, that becomes the band that anyone can use. All right, so microwave ovens will only cause interference when they are running. And generally, this interference only causes problems in close proximity to the microwave. Many microwaves are shielded. They have a lot of shielding on it, so it prevents the radiation from escaping, but some usually will. So, to reduce interference, pretty simple. Keep your Wi-Fi router away from the microwave. So, when I say away, I don't know. Like, don't put them right next to each other. Maybe try to put 5 to 10 feet of space between them.
Okay.
And remember, you're only going to get the interference when the microwave's on, and it's not even that bad. But it might cause like a video to cut out a little or something, or you to have some issues. But generally, your internet connection won't drop completely.
Okay.
All right. So this is an issue I was having with my home phone. If your Wi-Fi router becomes unreliable or drops out with a cordless phone, which I was having that problem, baby monitor or AV sender, try changing the channel your Wi-Fi uses. And I'll explain the channels later, but basically my cordless phone happened to use approximately channel 1, so I could not use channel 1 on my Wi-Fi router. I had to use a different channel. Because otherwise, whenever someone would call and someone would pick up the cordless phone, the Wi-Fi would drop for everyone because the cordless phone was using the same channel as the Wi-Fi. So, if you...
do you have like one of those internet phones?
No, it's not a VoIP. It's just a regular cordless phone.
I have a VoIP.
If you can move the router away from the sources of interference, so move it away from the cordless phone, again, probably 10 feet will suffice. Just try not to put them right next to each other. Or
is it like only when the phone is on, or is it like...
Usually it's only when you're actually using the phone. And it would be only if the phone was a 2.4 gigahertz phone. Some cordless phones use a different radio band, then it shouldn't have an issue.
Okay, because I have no idea what type of phone this is. And it's literally right next to my Wi-Fi router.
Is it cordless phone? It's a cordless phone. Does it say anything on it? Like, does it say 2.4?
Says it's a phone. It's AT&T company. I mean, the company is AT&T. It's VoIP. That's all I know about it.
All right. Yeah. Well, if you don't have issues when you're using your phone and using the Wi-Fi at the same time, then it's not a problem, right? Do you have issues when you're using them at the same time?
I don't think so. I never really noticed it.
All right. Yeah, here at
Like, I
my
wouldn't
house,
try.
if you don't try because the connection might drop. Here at my house, if you use channel 1 on the Wi-Fi, whenever someone picked up the cordless phone, the internet would drop for everyone.
That sucks.
But changing the channel fixed it. So if your Wi-Fi becomes unreliable or drops, so I already said that, change the channel. If you can, move the router away from source interference. So just make sure they're not real close to each other if you're having issues. And you can also get cordless phones, baby monitors, and AV senders that operate in the 900 megahertz band. So that's going to be lower radio frequency, or the 5 gigahertz band, because that's going to be higher radio frequency. The 900 megahertz band is not used by Wi-Fi, and the 5 gigahertz band is much larger and is less frequently used by Wi-Fi. Although that is changing now, where you have more and more high-speed Wi-Fi networks using the 5 gigahertz band. But it's much larger, and you have more room in the 5 gigahertz band for different stuff. It's about, 2.4 gigahertz band is about 100 megahertz large. Is that right? Yeah, it's about 100 megahertz large. 5 gigahertz band is about 1,000 megahertz. So it's about 10 times the size. There's so much more room up there for different stuff.
Okay, so can you now explain like the different channels of the Wi-Fi?
I think that's coming up in a slide or two.
Okay.
Oh, here it is. Okay. So I said change the wireless channel you're using. Many routers by default will have an auto mode. It'll be auto, so it'll just pick a channel. It'll scan for channels and it'll pick the channel that has the least interference. And that can work, but I find a lot of times the auto mode isn't very good. It doesn't pick the best channel. Now, if you're in a like for example, if you have like a portable Wi-Fi router and the environment's constantly changing, the other channels are constantly changing, then auto mode might be worth it to use. You might want to use auto mode, but most of the time you might want to set it manually. So here, do you have the live stream up, Jay?
Yeah.
So you can see a lot. Do you see the diagram there on the bottom of my screen? All right, so that basically illustrates the way the channels work. 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which is currently the most widely used, has 11 overlapping channels. So you can see here on the graph, there's channel 1, where that dot is. And there's channel 2. Look at all this space.
3 channels overlap over 1.
Where they're overlapping. So the 3 channels that don't overlap and the 3 channels that should be used, I really don't know why they just didn't make it channel 1, 2, and 3. Because really you should only be using channels 1, 6, and 11. And see, the thing is too, and I'll explain this later, but two networks on the same channel. So if you have 2 networks on channel 1, that's much better than 2 networks on overlapping channels. So that you're going to have more issues if there's a network on channel 1 and a network on channel 2 than if you had 2 networks on channel 1. And I'll explain that later, but yeah, you want to try to, if possible, to use channel 1, 6, and 11.
Okay.
Alright, so let's move on here. Well, I want to read this here. So, 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi channels, they're 5 megahertz apart from each other, while 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi networks usually have a channel width of 20 or 22 megahertz. So this means that the channels will overlap. Using overlapping channels can result in packet loss, which is very bad. Channels 1, 6, 11 do not overlap with each other, and they should be used when possible. All right, so that's talking about 5 gigahertz. And it says if you have a dual band router, dual band Wi-Fi router, it operates on both the 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz bands simultaneously. The 5 gigahertz band is much larger than 2.4 gigahertz band, and 5 gigahertz channels do not overlap. Now, I'm going to explain some of the differences between 2.4 and 5 gigahertz later. It might even be in one of the next. It's going to be in one of the next slides here. I don't know if it's going to be in the next one, but there are some differences in how they work, because it is a different radio frequency, so there's going to be some some differences there.
Okay.
So use a program like Insider. It's called INSSID, so basically a pun on Wi-Fi SSID, which is the network name, to determine which wireless channels are being used in your area. And I'm going to show you this Insider in just a minute. I have it on my computer. So turn your router access point off to see what kind of interference from other networks you're dealing with. Use an unused channel, preferably 1, 6, or 11, in the 2.4 gigahertz band if possible. If you have a dual band access point, use an unused channel in the 5 gigahertz band if possible. If an unused channel isn't available, use a channel with the least interference, lowest signal strength from other Wi-Fi networks. Sharing a channel with another network is almost always better than using an overlapping channel. When 2 access points share a channel, they will take turns talking. This will reduce throughput. When 2 access points are on overlapping channels, they will talk over each other. This will result in an increased packet loss. A reduction in throughput is generally seen as better than high packet loss. So this would be kind of like two networks on the same channel. It would be like, say, you're on a double date, but the people are taking turns talking, right?
Okay.
But so you can understand it's going to be slower because you can only talk half the time. But you're not going to have any issues. You'll be able to understand what the other person is saying. But
is it kind of like a walkie-talkie on the same channel?
Yeah.
Like 2 walkie-talkies.
Yeah, that they would take turns. Like the 2 networks would work with each other and take turns, and like walkie-talkies. But if you're on overlapping channels, you'd be on a double day. Everyone would be talking over each other, so it would be harder to understand what the other person was saying. Because you got a bunch of people talking at the same time. So by using the same channel, they take turns talking. Yes, it's going to be slower, but you're not going to have any issues where like information is dropped. So again, 2 networks on the same channel better than overlapping channels. This is one thing you should probably do on your Fios router, Jay. Disable mixed mode or compatibility mode.
Okay, so how do I do that? Do I just go to like the Fios website?
I'll show you in a minute how to do that.
Okay.
Well, maybe in a little more than a minute. I'll show it near the end of this section. I will show that. All right, so disable mixed mode or compatibility mode. Many routers will have mixed mode or compatibility mode on by default. This reduces wireless throughput, so this reduces the speed a little bit. It doesn't have a huge decrease in speed, but it will reduce the speed a little, in exchange for compatibility with older devices. Turn this off if possible and use 802.11n, or if you have 802.11 AC, use like N and AC together. Most stuff only supports 802.11n yet. 802.11 AC is catching on, but it's not like super big yet. So turn mixed mode off and use 802.11n and or 802.11 AC. If you have older technology, 802.11g, for example, use G/N mixed mode instead of the default BGN mixed mode. And that really doesn't make a lot of sense, those letters, until you understand these standards here. 802.11a was released in 1999 it operates in the 5 gigahertz band, and you get speeds of up to 54 megabits per second. 802.11b was released at the same time in 1999. A and B were released at the same time in 1999. B operates in the 2.4 gigahertz band. You're going to get speeds of up to 11 megabits per second. So B is much slower than A. G was released in 2003. It operates in the 2.4 gigahertz band, and it has speeds of up to 54 megabits per second. And G literally brings the technology A uses and just moves it down to the 2.4 gigahertz band. So they're basically the exact same. They both give 54 megabit per second, and it's the same. It's the same technology, just at a lower radio frequency. So 802.11n was released in 2009. It operates in the 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz band, and it offers speeds of up to 600 megabits per second. Now, many 802.11n devices don't support the 600 megabit per second speed, as that requires 4 antennas to get that speed. And yeah, you might be able to get 4 antennas on a router, but are you going to get 4 antennas in an iPhone? No, like there's not enough room for you to fit all that in. So most 802.11n devices will support maybe 150 or 300 megabits per second, but the standard is capable of up to 600.
Okay.
And the newest one, 802.11ac, released in 2014, operates only in the 5 gigahertz band, and it gives speeds up to about 7 gigabits per second, so that's 6,933 megabits per second. However, those speeds require 8 antennas, and most 802.11 AC devices, I don't think I've seen a single 802.11 AC device that actually has that speed. But theoretically, that's the maximum speed that you can get on 802.11 AC. And you got to remember too that this speed is the link rate, the rate between you and the router. But due to overhead, the actual speed is going to be slower. And a good way to estimate what the actual speed is going to be is take the number and multiply it by 0.7. Okay, so 54 megabits per second, for example, that's going to be about 38. That's going to be the maximum speed that you're actually going to get.
Okay.
Because there's going to be extra information that isn't needed. So if you did a speed test, for example, you had a 54 megabits per second router, you're never going to see 54 megabits per second. You're going to see probably in the 30s, the mid 30s maybe at the most. So just because it says 54 megabits per second, you're probably not gonna you're not gonna get that. That's just the gross data rate, the net data rate, which is going to be, you know, with all the overhead, the extra information that you don't need, which is used to, you know, make sure it gets to the right computer and that kind of stuff, is gonna make the connection slower. And also these maximum rates too, generally they can only be achieved in close proximity to the router. So say you're on the other end of your house, you're probably not going to be able to get the maximum speed. So for example, if you get like a 802.11n router that has 600 megabits per second, but you're on the other end of your house, you might get maybe 150 if you're lucky.
Okay.
The speeds aren't, you know, and they do that. Basically, the router and the device negotiate a speed. As you get further away, it gets harder and harder for the device to hear, so the router and the device talk slower. Because it would be either them talking slower and slower speed, or them talking at the same speed, and then you're going to start losing information, which is why your Wi-Fi slows down towards the edge of your house. It's basically the router and the device maintaining a connection by lowering the rate, so you still have a reliable but slower connection. Alright, so this is what I wanted to explain. the difference between 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi. Like I said, Wi-Fi can operate now in both frequency bands. 2.4 gigahertz signals are going to travel farther distances. They can penetrate walls much better than 5 gigahertz signals. So these 2.4 gigahertz signals are better for range. Because of the shorter wavelength, 5 gigahertz signals can theoretically carry more data than 2.4 gigahertz signals. So 5 gigahertz speed, 2.4 gigahertz range. 5 gigahertz equipment is generally more costly and complex to manufacture than 2.4 gigahertz equipment. However, this is the price difference is really changing. But it used to be that 5 gigahertz stuff was just way more expensive, and it still is a little. Higher transmit power is required to send a signal on the 5 gigahertz band because the signals don't travel as far, so you need a more powerful signal to, say, get through a wall. And this can result in a decrease in battery life on mobile devices. Since the 5 gigahertz band is much larger and 5 gigahertz signals don't travel as far as 2.4 gigahertz signals, there is much less interference from other devices such as cordless phones, baby monitors, and AV senders on this band. The 5 gigahertz band can be especially useful in environments such as apartment buildings where the wireless spectrum is very crowded. And increase the channel width, which I know on you have a Fios router. Fios router, or at least the version that you have, which is the same version that I had before I got my new Wi-Fi router. They won't let you increase the channel width. But the channel width, like I said earlier, 802.11n and I believe 802.11 AC channels are by default 20 megahertz wide. Some 802.11n routers will let you increase the channel width to 40 megahertz. So on devices that support the wider channel width, this will double the speed. A little more than double the speed. So for example, my Wi-Fi router offers, I guess it's about 144 megabits per second with a 20 megahertz wide channel, right? If I make the channel 40 megahertz wide, it increases the speed to 300 megabits per second. So that's more than double the speed by doubling the channel width. And then some 802.11 AC routers will let you increase the channel width up to 160 megahertz, increasing the speed 8 times from the standard 20 megahertz. Alright, an increased channel width, although it does make more speed, it can make your Wi-Fi more susceptible to noise from outside networks and other wireless devices. Now, I live in a home in the suburbs. There's good space between other homes. There's not much interference from other Wi-Fi networks, so that isn't really a problem. I can use the 40 megahertz channel with fine. There's no problem. But increasing the channel width in a crowded wireless environment, such as an apartment building, townhome, that kind of stuff, can cause an increase in packet loss. Because of this, it is not recommended to use a wider channel width on the 2.4 gigahertz band in a crowded environment, such as an apartment building. Increasing channel width will not increase the range. That's one common misconception. I think if they increase the channel width, it'll increase the range. It doesn't do shit. But it can result in an increase in speeds on the edge of your wireless network. So you have that one room in the corner of your house where it's not quite fast enough to stream HD video. If you increase your channel width, it might fix that, maybe. So it won't increase the range, but it'll increase the speeds on the edge.
Okay.
It can increase the speeds on the edge. I wouldn't say it will always, but it can. Alright, this is another thing, and I know I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong about this, but on the Fios router that you would have, you don't have the option to change this. Might be wrong, there might be an option in there. The guard interval. So an 802.11n and 802.11 AC the guard interval or delay between bits can be adjusted. A short guard interval, 400 nanoseconds, results in an 11% increase in speed. A normal guard interval, 800 nanoseconds, results in an increase in network reliability, especially at long distances where the signal is weakened or distorted. Now, most high-end routers will have short guard interval available as an option. Most of them will have it enabled by default for the faster speeds. But I would recommend turning this off if possible to increase reliability. Yeah, it's 11% faster, but really 11% change in speed really isn't all that much. And if it's gonna make my network more, unreliable, I don't want to use it. I don't know. If you want the faster speeds, you can use a short guard interval. But personally, I'd rather have reliability than speed. All right. This is one that a lot of people don't seem to realize. I didn't even really know about this. And not all antennas are, quite as. This is the signal pattern isn't quite as pronounced on all antennas, but more signal tends to come out of the sides of the antenna than the top and bottom. This creates a donut-shaped signal pattern. And this is why it's important to adjust the antennas on your router or access point.
Okay, so I've heard that if you take like a soda can or something,
yes,
you put it on your antenna, it'll make it have a larger range. Is that true?
Yes. I've never tried it, and I don't know how effective it is, but I believe that what it's supposed to do, and I guess it works. It focuses your signal. So if you have,
you're cutting out.
I'm cutting out.
Yeah.
You're cutting out too. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It focuses. The soda can is going to focus the signal in one direction. I've never tried it, but supposedly it'll help. But again, it'll only, if you use a soda can, it'll only push the signal in one direction.
Yeah, so it's kind of like when you take like a toilet paper roll and use it for a speaker for like an iPhone.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it louder everywhere. It just makes it louder on the side.
Or like a dish. You know how there's a.
Yeah.
It focuses the signal to the center of the dish.
Yeah.
So as long as the signal's hitting straight on, the parabolic antenna is going to focus the signal to the focal point, which is going to be the receiver. It's kind of like that, the soda can idea, to direct the signal in one direction. So, so you see here, this would be the antenna. And see how the signal sort of comes out in a donut shape. Now, this is a little, it's not quite that. See, if you look at this, you can see there's still going to be some signal going up and down, but most of the signal, especially on a high gain antenna, which many high-end routers have, is going to come out the sides. So adjusting the antenna says, orient the antenna vertically to cover the same floor with the best signal, or orient the antenna horizontally to cover floors above and below with the best signal.
Okay, so.
Now that's not going to make a huge difference, but it can make a little bit of a difference. So.
Like it can make those edges like a little longer, depending on the direction you're facing it, right?
Yeah, I guess. So this is one thing that I guess 802.11n routers are going to have. It's called WMM, and not all routers have this either, but they can. It's called Wi-Fi multimedia, and it basically assigns different priority levels to things. So certain data that requires low latency and high reliability, this is going to be VoIP, online games, and video streams. It allows them to take priority over other data. So for example, if I'm in a Skype call from you, like I'm in a Skype call with you right now, and I try to. Oh, I got a comment. Oh, I can't believe I didn't see this. Marlboro Red asks, is 5 gigahertz band more stable? Um, well, I'm not going to bother replying to your comment. I'll just answer your question here. Um, it can be, and generally is, because you're going to have less interference on the 5 gigahertz band. So that's gonna mean more stability if you're not having interference. But also, like I said, the 5 gigahertz signals don't travel as well through walls. They don't travel as far. So especially walls can really knock down a signal. So if you're going through a lot of walls, 2.4 gigahertz band is going to be more stable. So it really depends on the circumstance and where you're using it. But generally, 5 gigahertz band is going to be more stable at short distances, and 2.4 gigahertz band is going to be more stable at longer distances. So that's the. Hopefully that you thought that was a good answer. I'm sorry I didn't see that comment. Hopefully you're still watching. Thanks for commenting. I'm glad to know someone's watching this. Okay, so back to this. So like I said, you can enable Wi-Fi multimedia, and so this will make your online gaming a little smoother, possibly make your Skype calls smoother, video stream smoother. And not all routers and wireless cards support WMM. Others support WMM, but it is disabled by default. WMM must be enabled on both ends for it to be effective. So right now I have WMM enabled on my computer's network card, which you can check. I'll show you here. Go into Device Manager on a Windows computer, and network adapters, and this is the TP-Link, this one, network adapter, and advanced. And here, somewhere here, there's WMM. See that? And I'm pretty sure that was disabled, or it was set to auto, I forget. But I enabled it, and I have it enabled on my home router, which I'll show how to access that in a minute here too. But I have it enabled right now here. And I have it enabled on my router. So theoretically, online games, they're going to have better priority over, say, my mom's trying to access a website on her phone.
Okay.
Now, like I just showed, going to Device Manager to enable WMM on the network card. Not all network cards are going to have it, but some do. And WMM is sometimes called WME, multimedia mode, gaming mode, or multimedia gaming environment by certain vendors. So it's going to have some different names depending on the vendors. Generally, you're just going to see WMM. That's what it's called for the most part. All right. Now this beamforming is only going to be in your high-end routers. But if your router has it, you can enable beamforming. Some 82.11n and 82.11 AC routers and network cards support beamforming. Beamforming uses multiple antennas to concentrate the signal in a certain direction. Enabling beamforming can increase throughput and reliability, especially towards the edge of a network where the signal is weak or distorted. Beamforming is often disabled by default. Check your wireless router and network card settings to see if it can be enabled. So, look at this. My network, if I go back into Device Manager here, my network card has beamforming. It's one of the options. Now, it's disabled. I'm just going to leave it disabled because I don't really notice the difference. Yeah, it's not always going to make a difference either. But at long distances, it can make a difference. But on this network card, it was disabled by default. And if I wanted to, I can enable it. So if I was, this computer is up towards the edge of my network, it might be worth enabling it. left it disabled. I did enable it and tested it. It didn't really make much a difference for me because I'm so close to the router. I'm in the same room as my Wi-Fi router. But
Yeah,
if you're going long distances, beamforming could be worth it. But most wireless routers and network cards don't have it. All right, so like I said, beamforming is also often disabled by default, like it is in my circumstance. And I didn't really notice much of a difference, but if you play around with it, if your router has beamforming, just see what it does. If you turn it on, see if you notice a difference. Might even slow your speed down a little, but just mess around a little. Enable quality of service. And this is probably what takes the most time to do. And it really isn't necessary unless you're having issues. But some Wi-Fi routers, most modern Wi-Fi routers, can let you give priority to certain devices. So this is going to vary wildly how you do this, depending on the router. But read your manual, read the router's manual to see if your router has QoS options and how to enable them. Give higher priority to devices that need a fast and reliable connection, such as computers. Whoa, what's going on? Hey Jay, what's going on? Yeah, is that the TV? Yeah, I'm here. What's going on? Do you have a TV going or something now? Yeah, there's like a TV real loud in the background. It's louder than you. I'm moving on, so just all right. So enable quality of service, like I said. Read your router's manual to see how to do this. And generally, this really isn't necessary unless you're having issues. So give higher priority to devices that need a fast and reliable connection. So computers, mobile phones, tablets, IP cameras, that kind of stuff. And give lower priority to devices that don't need a fast and reliable connection. So like smart thermostats, wireless printers, they can wait. If I print something, the printer can wait a few seconds till the network's ready. But if I say I'm playing an online game, I don't want to delay there. So by giving my computer higher priority and giving the printer lower priority, that can ensure that even if other people are on, that would be good for guests too. If you have like a lot of guests on your network, give them lower priority to make sure that I can still have a reliable connection for whatever I want to do for my computer. Or say you're a parent and you have kids and you don't want them sucking all your bandwidth away watching YouTube and playing games and shit. If you go into the QoS settings and make your kid's iPhone, limit the speed, limit the priority on that. You can do that kind of stuff too.
Okay, so how do you do that again? How do you go into settings and do that?
On quality of service, again, that's going to vary wildly router to router. I will show you though on the FiOS router. I'll show you how to do this right now. So if you're watching the stream. So for my router, it's 192.168.1.1. And your username and password is going to vary. Check the router to see what it is. It's been a while. I think it's over advanced. Yeah, there it is. So on a FiOS router, you're going to go to advanced and quality of service. And this is kind of hard to set. This is one of the tougher ones to do. But you can see here so right now my setup is I have the FiOS router, which is the modem too. It's a modem router combo hooked up to the new Wi-Fi router I bought, and I have the Wi-Fi disabled on the FiOS router. So all the Wi-Fi is going through my new router. But
Okay.
here you can see these are the QoS input rules. And I set my new router, I set everything to static IP addresses so the IP doesn't change. And this 192.168.1.2, that's the new router. I have it set to priority 7, which is high. It's the highest level there is. It's high priority. And then this here, 192.168.1.100 to 102, I have 3 cable boxes in my house. And them I have set to medium. So my other Wi-Fi router has high priority, while the cable boxes have medium priority. Now this would be a little more complicated to set up. Say if you have 10 computers, this is only 2 things. I guess 4 things technically. But if you have like 10 computers, it'd be a little more complicated to set up. So that's the input rules. That's everything going into the router. And these are the output rules. This is stuff coming out of the router. Again, I have my other router set to high priority, and I have my the cable boxes are set to medium priority.
Okay. Damn it. What the hell? I'm trying to log into this thing and it's not logging in.
And then here I'll show you over here wireless settings, which I have the wireless turned off. Let me see. So that's where you would set your channel. So it's that wireless settings, basic security settings, and no. Where is it? Yeah, I guess it is wireless settings, basic security settings. There's channel. So there you would click. Now I have the Wi-Fi, but click the drop down and select the channel you want. And then there's advanced security settings.
I'm trying to sign in my Verizon thing without
And see this? This is that's what I was talking about, the mixed mode. So this calls 82.11n mode. This router has 3 options: compatibility mode, legacy mode, and performance mode. Now compatibility mode is going to work with all Wi-Fi devices. Legacy mode is going to work with all Wi-Fi devices too, but it'll be slower and it'll be more focused on old devices. If you have only old devices, you're going to use that. And performance mode is what you would preferably want to use. If you can, if all your devices are 82.11n, which I would recommend you doing this, Jay, on your router. Unless you have like some really old devices, like I don't know. I don't even know. Like I guess a really old laptop might use G. But yeah, that's the compatibility mode I was talking about. You want to disable that. Use performance mode 82.11n is possible, or if you have 82.11 AC, use that if you can. If your devices are that. Oh, Insider. Let's show you that. This is Insider. You can get it for free. Now, the latest version, Insider, I believe they're up to 4 now, is paid. You gotta pay, I think it's $20, but you can get the old version. What is this, 2? I think Insider 2. It used to be free, and they started charging for it. So you can get the older versions that were free, just off of like Major Geeks. I think. Let me see. Insider Home. So they're on TechSpot. Insider 3.1.2.1. So that's gonna be like the free version, which is what I have here. And there you can see I have a dual band Wi-Fi, so I'm using 2.4 gigahertz. See, here's the 2.4 gigahertz band. Here's the 5 gigahertz band, and I have a network here on 2.4 gigahertz and a network on 5 gigahertz. And right now I'm connected to the 5 gigahertz one.
Yeah, I can't see that right now. It's got it like a 36 delay.
Okay, it should be up now.
Okay, yeah.
So now let's say I were to say I wanted to hook up. say this is what the Wi-Fi environment looked like, and I wanted to set up a Wi-Fi. Say I don't have Wi-Fi at all. Okay.
Okay.
On the 2.4 gigahertz band, if I get a router, I want to pick the channel. I want to use channel 1. Okay, because look at all of this. This is my network here, so it has a 40 megahertz width, right?
Uh-huh.
Don't want to use any of these channels or any of the channels that overlap with it. So ideally, I would want to use channel 1 because a network on channel 1 is not going to interfere with any of these. All right, and then this is a 5 gigahertz band over here to the right. And if I were to be hooking up another 5 gigahertz router, right now this is using channel 40. Like I said, none of the channels overlap, but they go in increments of 4. So I guess technically they would overlap, but since the channels go in increments of 4, you don't really have an issue. Like on my router, let me pick 36, 40, 44, 48. But ideally, I would want to space it out a bit. So try to. But I would not use, for example, I got a 5 gigahertz router. I would not want to use channel 40 again. I would want to use, something further away from it, or at the very least, something that doesn't. I would want to use something further away from it to reduce interference. So this is it's pretty easy to use. Again, you can get it on techspot.com. I think that's where I got it. You get it on just about any website. But if you want the latest version, I think it is like $20. Now, one thing about Insider though, it's not going to show you. It's not going to show you what else is interfering. So, for example, like I said, my home phone uses channel 1, about somewhere in there, uses somewhere around channel 1. It's not going to show me that. It's only going to show me the Wi-Fi networks. So figuring out what interferes, that's going to be more of like a trial and error basis. Or if you want to, you can shell out for what they call spectrum analyzers, where they'll show you what frequencies are being used. They're very expensive. I would just they're so expensive. I'd rather just do like trial and error to figure out what's being used. So like I said, the reason why I'm using this end of the spectrum channel, 11 and 7, I'm combining those two, is because my home phone uses the lower end, so I'm using the upper end of the 2.4 gigahertz band so they don't interfere with each other.
Okay, so it just it just makes your Wi-Fi faster.
By changing the channel?
Yeah.
It can.
Okay.
But I mean, look at this. See the 5 gigahertz band here? And the 2.4 gigahertz band too. There's only one thing using it. Without my network, because again, there's a fairly decent distance between my home and other homes. Really wouldn't matter which channel I picked. Wouldn't make much difference. Again, like I said, the reason why I'm on this end, the left end of the right end of the 2.4 gigahertz band, is because my home phone uses the left end. And the reason why I'm on the left end of the 5 gigahertz band is because I have a cheap router that only supports only supports the low end of the 5 gigahertz band. I think my router it does 36, 40, 44, and 48. So yeah, channel, depending on your wireless environment, can seriously make a difference, especially if you're in like if you're in an apartment building, you have a lot of interference from other Wi-Fi networks. And this program is really great to give you a visual representation of what things look like. And as you can see here, there's the top of the network. Okay, that's going to be lower. The more signal, the bigger the network top is going to look like. And up here you can see it gives a link score. Right now I have a link score of 100. So that means, I guess, perfect according to whatever their algorithm is. And it shows how many channels are co-channels, so that's network on the same channel. That's really not a huge issue. Or how many networks are overlapping. That's going to be a bigger issue. Like I said, that's going to be your packet loss. And below it shows signal strength. Let's say for Y, 0 dBm is a perfect signal, okay? And negative 100 dBm is basically a non-existent signal. So right now I have negative 40 dBm. That's pretty good for Wi-Fi. And this is my 802.11 AC. So this top one here is a 2.4 gigahertz network. This bottom one here is a 5 gigahertz network. So look at this. Same distance from the router. Signal's now negative 60. So negative 40 signal, that's much stronger, and negative 60. So this is even at a short range. My router's in the same exact room. You can see a difference between the signal strength between the two networks. Alright, so I guess that's all I wanted to say on this. Let's get back to the PowerPoint. Geez, this is taking much longer than I expected. So quality of service, I talked about that. So how do I change these things on my Wi-Fi router? Depending on the model and age of the router, certain features may or may not be available. Go to your browser and enter your router's IP address. On Fios, this is going to be 192.168.1.1. I know AT&T, generally it's going to be 192.168.1.254. Could also be 192.168.0.1 or 192.168.0.254. So that's just going to depend on the brand of your router, you know, what company, whether you have AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, that kind of stuff. Read your Wi-Fi router's manual to see how to find and navigate the setup page. So read the fucking manual, you know, that's what you do, you know.
Okay, so it depends on the router that you're having, which tells you what, yeah, okay.
Generally, it's going to be in the manual. Okay, so read your Wi-Fi router's manual. Okay, now I'm going to show you an example of a setup page for a Wi-Fi router. Okay, my Wi-Fi router asks for username and password. I don't know. 1 minute. So this is my Wi-Fi router. I don't understand why it's asking me for it twice. Alright, so this is a setup page. Now, it's pretty simple. This is a quick setup, so it's just asked for your 2.4 gigahertz SSID password, 5 gigahertz SSID password. Now you go to advanced. This is your real settings. This is stuff that matters. So this stuff is all tech mumbo jumbo. I could get into it, but I really don't feel like it. Down here, it just shows you stats. So it says 2.4 gigahertz is enabled. There's SSID. So network. Yeah, that's kind of advanced stuff too. Alright, so here's your wireless 2.4 gigahertz. There it's got the stats. So I want it enabled, obviously. I would turn it on and off. Turn the 2.4 gigahertz radio on and off. Radio bands to this, I have it set to 802.11n because that's going to be the fastest. And all my devices are 802.11n, so I don't need to do. Now, if I had 802.11g and n devices, I would want to do this 802.11g and n. But since all my devices are 802.11n, that's what I want to use. There's the SSID broadcast. That's going to just basically determine whether a network's hidden or not. A hidden network is not visible to other people. Generally, now some devices will say hidden network in the list. I just leave it on because it makes it easier for, if my stepdad brings home a computer from work or something, he's like, where's the Wi-Fi network? So if I just leave it on, there's no issue. So region US, that's kind of duh. If you set a region you're not in, for example, if I set the EU, see, it'll let me go up to channel 13. Channel 13's not legal to use in the US unless you're just about any network card made in the U.S. or not made in the U.S. but any network card sold in the U.S. isn't going to support it. So just set the region to the country you're in. So I'm in the U.S. That's what I need. Channel width. This is what I was talking about. So I have it set to 40 megahertz. The control sideband. Not all devices are gonna support the high channel width. You know, some older devices are gonna only support 20 megahertz channel width. So this determines which side you're using. So if I look at Insider, you can see my network takes up both is channel 7 and 11 together. But if I have a device that only supports a 20 megahertz channel width, it's just going to use channel 11. If I had that set control sideband, if I had that set to lower, it would use channel 7. So for example, I'm using channel 11, but it's using channel 7 as well for other devices. So I want channel 11 to be the main channel, so that's why I have it set to upper. Because again, 1, 6, and 11 is what you want to use. So I want channel 11 to be the main, and channel 7 is like the secondary channel that's used on devices that support it for faster speed. Alright, now this router is multi-SSID. So in this Wi-Fi router, you can actually set up more than one network. I have the other ones disabled, but for example, if I would have guests at my house, which I actually used this very recently for you, Jay. I can enable a second network, and see here, I have it called Get Your Own is the SSID. And the password is
CIA secured.
Yeah, you could use it for that. Yeah, CIA secured network. Most Wi-Fi routers aren't going to have this multiple SSID, although now that's changing. More and more are having what they call guest network. This one here, this is a pretty nice router. You can do up to 3 additional networks in each band, so that's up to 6 networks like it says on the packaging. So here's wireless advanced. Wireless roaming. I have that disabled now. If you had more than 2, if you had 2 Wi-Fi routers and you want to be able to like seamlessly move from one to the other or roam from one to the other, then you want that enabled. But since I only have one router in my house, one Wi-Fi access point, I have that disabled. AP isolation. That basically means that is it going to isolate data? I want that off in my situation because I want stuff from the 5 gigahertz network to see stuff on the 2.4 gigahertz network and vice versa. This short guard interval, this is what I was talking about here. Enabling it will increase speed. Disabling it will increase reliability. WMM, again, that's going to give priority to gaming, that kind of stuff. I went on. Protection, honestly, I have no clue what that is. It might have something to do with the password. I don't really know. That was on by default, so I just left it on.
Okay.
Transmit power, you're gonna want that at 100%. Wireless client list is just gonna show you the stuff that's connected currently. Alright, so here's 5 gigahertz again, same thing. I have it set to 82.1 AC. This one will only let you do Europe EU for the region on the 5 gigahertz. Again, it's a cheap router, so it only does 36, 40, 44, and 48. It only does those 4 channels. And I have the channel width up the whole way. This router does up to 80 megahertz. Some 82.1 AC routers will do 160. So yeah. Multiple SSID again has that. Wireless advanced, same stuff. Bandwidth control. So this is going to be like your quality of service. This router has. So right now I have high priority. That's all my home computers. See 192.168.0.1. I have everything set to reserved MAC address. To 192.168.0.8. So that's all computers, tablets, phones, that kind of stuff. Medium priority. That's wireless printer. And I forget. It's a wireless printer and something else. There's two things. Low priority 1, so that's going to be for guests, and low priority 2, also for guests. Forwarding, you're going to want to mess with this maybe if you're playing gaming or something. I don't really game too much, so.
Like right now, how I'm gaming?
Port forwarding, that might be used if you're having an issue like a game won't work right. You might want to need to forward that port, that sort of stuff. A lot of times you don't really need to mess with that. Here's access control. So this is going to be like your parental controls, that sort of crap. This is some of this crap. I don't even know what it is. This is going to be your firmware upgrade, which I recommend doing. That's really going to vary depending on the router. On this, you can get the firmware upgrade on the Netis website. Let's see what else I got. Backup and restore. So, say I want to save the. Say I want to make a backup of my router, and then I mess with it, and then say I want to change it back to what the backup was. I can do that. So I can back up. That'll create a backup file and download it to my computer and restore. Then I can pick the backup file and send it back. So there's the backup file there on fig.tgz. I'm not going to download it, but alright, diagnostic tools. Really, I don't need to use that. Time settings. Some routers have this as a time server. That's just what it was set to by default. Password. So most routers will let you change the password to access the administrator page that I'm in now. Statistics. Some routers will have that. So there it has. You can see the amount of data sent and received in I guess the last 27 days or whatever. And there you can see this is the wide area network. So this is coming from the FiOS router. This is the 5 GHz network, and this is the 2.4 GHz network, and this has all 0. This is going to be the Ethernet ports. I don't really use Ethernet, so that's why they're all 0. There you see CPU usage and memory usage. So memory usage seems fairly high. CPU usage is fairly low. I mean, nothing really too alarming there. System log. This is will vary depending on the router, but this might show you some errors or something. Or if you have it set to say to log whenever. So this is showing like your DHCP request. That's not really going to matter to most people. Or you can have it set maybe on the parental controls to log whenever someone tries to access a certain website, that kind of stuff. System restart, so I can restart the router without actually pushing any buttons on. I can just do it from this, and I can reset it to factory from this as well. Alright, let's move on. It's really taking me longer than I expected. Alright, so as it says, you would usually need to enter a username or password to access your Wi-Fi setup page. This can usually be found on a sticker on the router or in the manual. So this Wi-Fi router's buyer's guide. Picking the right Wi-Fi router for your needs can seem like a difficult task. Many router manufacturers use buzzwords to try to get you to buy the high-end models. I will explain what the specifications really mean and whether or not you need them. So dual band, and this is kind of, so I'll try to go fast through this stuff because I already talked about this. So dual band routers transmit, receive in both 2.4 and 5 GHz band at the same time. If you're getting a new Wi-Fi router, I strongly recommend buying a dual band one if you can afford it. I mean, the prices are coming down, so I'd get a dual band one if you could afford it. As I explained earlier, 2.4 GHz signals travel farther, while 5 GHz signals can offer higher throughput, so higher speeds, and are less susceptible to interference. Channel width. So if you want to have a high speed, it says higher end routers will let you make channels wider than the default 20 megahertz. This results in an increase in throughput. Buy a router that supports 40 megahertz channel width or wider if you need higher speeds. Now, if you don't really need the higher speeds, then don't bother with higher channel width. But, if you want the faster speed, channel width, like I said, can double your speed. So just consider that. Wireless standard. If you're buying a Wi-Fi router, get one that's either 802.11n or 802.11ac. Because that's the modern standard. Most modern Wi-Fi routers are going to be that. Now, 802.11ac is really only necessary for high bandwidth demand, so that's going to be a lot of people on at the same time. Maybe if you're doing extremely heavy file downloading, that sort of stuff, where a lot of people are, online gaming at the same time. Generally, 802.11n will be sufficient, unless you need those really high speeds. And then the max rate, this is a max rate, the maximum speed the router can transmit and receive data. Due to packet overhead, like I was saying earlier, the net data rate is approximately 30% less than the advertised data rate. So 54 megabits per second gross data rate is going to be 38 megabits per second net data rate at the most. Generally, it's even lower than that. The max rate is determined by both the transmitting and receiving equipment. If the router has a max rate of 600 megabits per second, but the Wi-Fi card has a max rate of 300 megabits per second, the link established will be 300 megabits per second. Always the slower of the two. Generally, the max rate is only used if the signal is strong. The data rate will decrease as distance from the router increases. Do I need the fastest max rate? Well, many network cards don't support the fastest speeds anyways. 802.11n has a max speed of 600 megabits per second. However, most 802.11n wireless cards only support speeds of up to 150 or 300 megabits per second. As 600 megabits per second would require 4 antennas, which generally you can't really fit 4 antennas into a mobile phone, for example. 802.11ac has a max data rate of approximately 7 gigabits per second. However, most 802.11ac wireless cards only support speeds of up to 433 or 867 megabits per second, as 7 gigabits per second would require 8 antennas. This is why getting a router with the highest speeds often doesn't make a difference. The high speeds must be supported on both ends. A faster router won't speed up your internet. If you have 25 megabits per second internet, you probably won't notice a difference on a high-end router, unless many devices are connected at once. Alright, so someone like me, I have 50 megabit per second FiOS. So a 600 megabit per second router isn't really going to make much a difference over 150 megabits per second, because my internet, isn't that fast. It's not going to speed up my internet. Now, if I have a lot of people on at the same time, a 600 megahertz or a 600 megabit per second router generally has balances between the different devices faster. So I could see a benefit, but generally not really going to make much of a difference. Beamforming. Beamforming allows the router to use, like I said, multiple antennas, concentrates the signal in one direction. Only high-end routers are going to have beamforming. It can extend the effective range of your wireless network and increase speeds on the edges of your network. However, beamforming is generally not necessary in small to medium-sized homes. Like, I have a fairly decent-sized home. You know how big my home is. I have a router that doesn't have beamforming. And it's towards the corner of my house, too. It's not even in the center. I really would like to move it, but I'd have to run some wire. It's in the best place I can get it. My router doesn't have beamforming. I get signal perfectly good throughout my house, even on the back deck and the back porch. I can get a good signal.
Perfectly well.
And I get signal down to the sidewalk. So, beamforming probably isn't really necessary unless you have a really big home and you're having issues with the signal. And then guard interval, I talked about before. Router with short guard interval can increase speeds 11%. This decreases reliability. Use regular guard interval for better reliability. Use short guard interval if you need the faster speeds. So tips to remember, I know that was a lot, but buy an 802.11n or AC router. These are the two newest wireless standards. If you're buying 802.11n router, get one that supports a max rate of at least 300 megabits per second. And if you're buying an 802.11 AC router, get one that supports a max rate of at least 700 megabits per second. And the max rate, that's generally going to be the biggest thing on the package. Like my 82.11 AC router, it says AC 1200. So that means it does up to 1200 megabits per second. So that's generally going to be the biggest number on the packaging. Buy a dual band router. For increased speeds, get a router that supports wider channel width and or short guard interval. For increased range, get a router that supports beamforming. Remember that these advanced settings may not be enabled by default. You'll have to enable them yourself by going to your Wi-Fi router setup page. Instructions on how to access the setup page can usually be found either in the user manual or on a sticker on the router. Alright, so now I'm going to hit this. This is my Wi-Fi router here. It's a Netis WF2780, and it is the Wi-Fi router I recently bought off of Amazon. This thing was a steal, dual band router, AC 1200. It offers 300 megabits per second on the 2.4 gigahertz band and approximately 900 megabits per second on the 5 gigahertz band. It was, I think, $70. It's a pretty good deal for this kind of technology. This router is pretty great. The signal is for $70. I get better signal strength throughout my house than I used to on the Verizon 5 stock router, which honestly is pretty junky. Doesn't have a strong signal. I'm able to get signals on the far corners of my house. I'm able to get signals down at my sidewalk, pretty good signal. I'm able to get signal on the back deck, back porch, backyard. So pretty good signal, even though it is sort of in the corner of my house. Covers the house pretty good. Let me see if I can get this up on Amazon here. Whoops. Let's see, Netis WF2780. This is the router here. So this is a pretty nice little router for the price. What, 75? I think I got it for 70 though. I think it was on like a discount when I bought it. But so $75. It's not very bad.
Oh yeah, it's Prime Day.
Oh right. Do you have Amazon Prime?
No.
Me neither. So yeah, $75. Pretty decent router for that price. Now one thing about this router is there was a security hole in it in the older version. This review actually points this out. There was a back door on UDP port 53,413, which could be accessed from the other side of the router, and someone could hack into the router and see what you're doing. If you do a firmware update, which I was talking about, you should always update the firmware. They fixed that hole. So that's one thing when I got this router. The first thing I did, I got it out of the box, hooked it up to my computer, put new firmware on it to fix the security hole.
Okay, do you have something running in the background?
No, it sounds like you have a TV going or something.
I don't think it's me, because I don't have anything on here.
I don't know. Maybe I'll turn your volume down a little bit. You are sort of staticky. Alright, I gotta keep moving. I might not even be able to finish this broadcast today. Might have to take it up tomorrow. So this is a pretty good router for the price. I would definitely recommend it. just a great little router. Just make sure you do that firmware update. It's got all those features like I was showing you through the menu. You know, multi SSID, 40 megahertz channel width and 80 megahertz channel width, 4 gigabit Ethernet ports, WPA2 encryption, just all the latest stuff. And then the last, I guess I got a little more then. Last thing on the Wi-Fi subject. Is this TP-Link Archer TA. So this is a wireless card I bought from my computer. It hooks into your computer's PCIe port. Pretty nice little card. This thing goes up to AC 1750 megabits per second, so it's faster than the router. I get good speeds on it. It's reliable. I mean, it's a Wi-Fi card. It works in Windows 10. I think it works for Windows 7 and 8 as well. Not sure about Vista. I think it works for Vista. But nothing special about it. It's a wireless card. It was kind of pricey. Let's see what it is now. So what's this? This is it. So it's $65 right now. I think it was a little more expensive when I bought it. It may have been 70. It's a pricey little wireless card, but it's nice. It's fast. It's reliable. Again, Windows XP 7, 8, 8.1, 10. So a lot of operating systems there. I even got it to work with Linux. So pretty nice little Wi-Fi card. I mean, it does what I need it to do. So that's all I really care. And the last thing, I guess we do have time to hit this. How to speed up your computer. And this is just some simple stuff. I mean, this is not going to make like a super old computer. It's not going to fix that. But let me just show you a few things. So if you go to your task manager on Windows 10, or I think Windows 8, it's control. You can do Control Shift Escape. That'll take you right to the task manager. Okay, go over to the startup tab. This is going to be.
I can't do Control Shift.
What?
Escape with the. But yeah, I can.
Yeah, that's one thing. Even I didn't know. Most people do Control Delete to get to the task manager, and they do task manager. You can do Control Shift Escape to go directly to the task manager. So this startup tab, this is going to be all the crap that comes on when you turn on your computer.
Oh my gosh, I have so much ready right now.
So, you know, there's this two things on the top. That's my antivirus. It's AVG. I want them on. And this is something from Asus, the computer manufacturer. I want that on. Sticky Notes, I use that. I want that on. Realtek HD Audio, so that's my sound. I want that on. 3 things from Intel. Yeah, that's the processor. I want that on. But everything else here I don't really need, like Java Update Scheduler, QuickTime, Apple Push, fax transmission, Steam client Bootstrap or Google installer. I don't need any of that crap to come on when my computer turns on. If I want to use that, I'll run, you know, when I go to run the program. Like I hardly ever use QuickTime. So I don't want that to run right away whenever I turn my computer on. Now on an older computer, like I think Windows 7 or earlier, you're going to do, I believe, Command R, so Windows key R and msconfig. And then over here on the startup tab. So they moved it to the task manager in Windows 8 and Windows 10. But on our older version of Windows, again, Windows key R, msconfig, and go to the startup tab, and you can do that. So next I'm going to show you is just graphics performance. So here's your desktop. Go right click. This would be with an Intel graphics card. If you have AMD, this would be like Intel integrated. If you have like an AMD card or NVIDIA card, something like that, it'd be a little different. But go right click graphics properties. And go down to for your 3D stuff. It's going to be 3D. Most times, this is going to be your gaming. Most time, it's going to be set to either quality or performance, or it's going to be set to either balanced or quality by default. When you're playing a game, you want it to be as smooth as possible. So that's why you want to set it to performance mode. Here I have it set to texture quality performance. The filtering, I have it just set to application settings. Now, this is the custom settings. I would recommend just using the default settings and then just turning it to performance. Because generally it's going to be right here in the middle. And that's going to improve your gaming performance. Now, some graphics cards, this is just integrated, so there's not really many options, but some graphics card will have more options. And remember to click apply when you're done too. Some graphics cards will have more options, and it might be a little more advanced. Probably be a good idea to just, if you don't know what something needs, look it up, see what it means, and see whether that, disabling that and enabling that will increase performance. Okay, let's talk about defragging and optimizing your drives. So go to computer, or this PC, I guess they're calling it now, and go to your hard drive. So it's going to be generally your C drive. Go right click properties and tools. And here you have error check. And I recommend doing that too every once in a while, just see if there's any errors. It generally takes a few minutes. And then below that you have optimize and defragment drive. Now if you don't understand how hard drives work, a regular hard drive is going to get fragmented over time. So files are going to get out of order on the drive. They're going to get split up. This is going to really slow down your hard drive. So if you defragment that hard drive, it'll make it run faster. SSDs don't really have an issue with fragmentation, as they're completely solid. So if they're solid, it's all transistors. So if a file's on a few different spots in the drive, it's not going to be an issue. Unlike a regular hard drive where the head's going to jump around and it's going to thrash around getting each part of the file. So now go to optimize. So you get to this screen, go optimize, and boom. Now this took about 2 seconds to trim this SSD. If you have a regular hard drive, it's probably going to take more like an hour. It might take a few hours to optimize the drive, depending on how bad the fragmentation is. Generally, SSDs, like I showed here, does very, very quickly. And trimming basically, defragmenting basically makes so the files are on order. Trimming makes it so that the files are going to be, it basically with an SSD, files need to be deleted before they can be written over. So trimming basically wipes the deleted stuff. Like it's still there on the drive when you trim, like clears it, like zeroes it out. While on a mechanical hard drive, you don't need to wipe out deleted data for it to be faster. Like you can just write over it, but on an SSD, it actually has to clear it before it can write over it. So you want to optimize your drive. If you want to, you can even turn on a schedule. I don't have this turned on. I just do it manually whenever I feel like it. You can run on a schedule, and maybe, I don't know, monthly is probably a good idea. Do it monthly. Now you can choose which drives you want. Make sure you have your hard drive selected. I just have the schedule turned off, but you might want to turn the schedule on so you don't forget to do this. So yeah, defragmenting, optimizing drives, that's important. Let's see, what else should I talk about? If you're on Windows 7, you might want to turn the arrow effects off, so you know how some of the windows are like transparent in Windows 7, Jay?
Yeah.
It looks nice, but it slows down your graphics performance. So if you want better performance, I would turn that off, and you can do that by, I think, what is it, right click. It might be I think it's personalized. Now this, I have Windows 10, so it looks different, but on Windows 7, I'm pretty sure it'll bring you up to the thing where you can disable the arrow effects. You know, Windows 7 really was a great operating system. Windows 10, I would say, isn't terrible. I'm not a huge fan of it, but Windows 7 was just Windows 7 was awesome. There's just something about it. It was so awesome. It was just simple. Didn't really have issues. All right. So I talked about startup. I talked about optimizing your drives. Gosh, what else? I didn't really make an outline for myself on this. I'm just thinking. Um, geez, what did I do with your computer when I was trying to speed it up? Oh, right, the performance settings. So if you go to your power options, this is going to be in your control panel. So go to control panel and power options. Where'd it go? There, power options. Set it to high performance. So yeah, that's now if you have battery though, like if you want to save your battery life, you might want to set it to power saver. But you know, I'm on a desktop computer. I'm plugged into the wall. I don't care about how much energy I'm consuming.
Wow, how nice is the environment.
Yeah, I'm real nice to the environment. You know, I'm a liberal environmentalist hippie, but I want my computer to run fast. So I have it set to high performance. You know, so that's gonna be. And if you really want to mess with stuff, you can go change plan settings and go change advanced power settings, and you know actually look at the different stuff. This is going to be more advanced stuff, but generally, if you just you want some more performance, change it from balance, which is usually the default, change it to high performance. Gosh, what else? All right, uninstall crap too. If you have a lot of crap on your computer you don't need, just uninstall programs that you're no longer using. Whoa, what happened there?
Sorry.
Just uninstall. You know, if you have a bunch of crap you don't use on your computer, uninstall it. Get rid of it. It's not doing anything there, and it could be consuming memory and crap in the background. So those are my tips for speeding up your computer. There's certainly more stuff you can do. If I wish I would have made myself an outline. Maybe I might pick this up later and do a more in-depth video on how to speed up your computer.
Okay, so.
But yeah, all right. So man, this 2 hours about. Wow, I did not think this live broadcast would take that long. And I'd like to thank you're one of the people.
2.5 hours.
What?
I was expecting it to be about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, right. Really?
Yeah, it was.
All right. Yeah, I was expecting it to be more like an hour. Anyway, so you're one of the live people. You're watching this live, right? Like you're watching the broadcast on YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, so I like to thank. I'm guessing it's this Marlboro Red guy for watching this live. I really wasn't expecting anyone to watch this live. The main reason I made this video is just I haven't been I think for a few months now, maybe 3 months. I haven't posted a new YouTube video, so I wanted to put something up. I wanted to put something up on my channel. So I'd like to thank whoever's watching live. All right, that's it for today's broadcast. Obviously, I'm gonna leave it up on YouTube, so this can be watched anytime. So just thanks for watching. Anyone watching live, thanks for watching. Anyone, watching this pre-recorded later, possibly months or years in the future, thanks for watching. Now, some of this information, of course, is going to be outdated in a few years when the next wireless standard comes out. But yep, thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you want more tech videos. I'm out of here. Bye.
Okay, bye.